Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Dirt Hippie channel. I'm Jenny, for anybody who is new. And this week, if I had to pick a theme, it would be dealing with pests and problems. I really expected this week to be a little bit more laid back, and it hasn't. Every day after work, I've been dealing with something. And then this weekend, there were lots of things that I tackled. So if any of you are in the Mid-Atlantic, Zone 7, that's what I'm in, if you've been paying attention outside, you might have seen some cabbage whites flying around. I saw my first two, which I didn't expect them to be this early. So I really quickly made up some makeshift hoops for my two brassica beds. Those have already been planted out, and I hope I got to them in time. I've only seen two, but I know that they will multiply. It's going to go crazy on top of all the other butterflies and moths that I always have. Cabbage whites are just really prolific here, so I've got to be on my game for those. So I did cover those beds. I have the fabric. I just needed to really quick make some hoops, and I don't have any piping or anything, so I just used what I had here, and it's fine. It'll be fine. Hopefully all will go well in there. And then the second thing, I've lived here for almost 20 years at this location, and in the last 10, I haven't seen rabbits because we have a really strong predator population. We've got coyotes and foxes and owls and hawks, and they've been keeping the rabbit population in check. And like I said, I haven't seen one in 10 years. So, anyway, I don't remember what day it was. I was in the driveway very early morning, before the sun was up, and there was a rabbit. And it surprised me because I hadn't seen one in 10 years. Not on this, I mean, I've seen them obviously, but not on my property. But immediately I started thinking about all the little things that I have in the garden that are unprotected. And really, I haven't needed to protect things against rabbits, just the deer. And so I erected a quickie bird netting covering over the one of the strawberry beds, the one right in front of the fenced garden, because that's where I saw the bunny tracks. Okay, I bought some bird netting as a temporary measure against the rabbits. I hate bird netting. I've always hated bird netting because it traps birds, but I needed something quick. I don't have time to build like a nice frame and with chicken wire or hardware cloth. So I did this quickie thing. This is a trick you can use. Just put some stakes in and put some pots on top. You can use plastic pots, or I just have these terracotta pots. So I only put this on the garden where the rabbit ran through before. So it's not on the other bed. The other bed has strawberries only in the front part of it. So I don't want to cover the whole bed, and it's a weird shape. This is one of the issues with having weirdly shaped gardens and not doing square things or rectangular things, is you have trouble if you need to build a cover. So you can see the strawberries are only along the front, and then there's the whole backside of the garden that has my ferns and whatever. Hostas are in that corner. So you can see the strawberries are only in this front part. So I'm gonna see if the rabbit comes over here, and if it does, I'm gonna have to really quick change gears and start working on some rabbit fencing. And it could just be a low fence. Oftentimes that's enough to deter them, something that just comes up, a couple feet. So I'm gonna see what I have laying around here, but bird netting sucks and I hate using it. This is the problem you have when your gardens are not square. So you have to find creative ways to build a, covering over top. Next, I am going to have to actually put some hardware cloth, chicken wire around the fence line now because I have cattle panels. And there's my first mosquito. No. Oh, I will get that mosquito. So the cattle panels have big enough holes that they will allow rabbits to pass through. But since I hadn't had a problem with rabbits, cattle panels made a great fence to keep the deer out. So I will be going sometime in the next week or so and I have chicken wire and I have hardware cloth. I will just use what I have and put it all along the bottom of the fence line. All right, so I didn't anticipate doing the fence today, but when I went in to check on the little seedlings, I saw what I think are rabbit tracks or something digging up some of the beds. Not the covered ones, but some of the beds. It stopped raining, so I got out here and I put up this extra fencing. So it's all the way around now, and I have the gates blocked. So I'm hoping until I can get something a little bit more permanent for the gates, I need to put hardware cloth on them. So I just made some frustrators sort of at the bottom so they won't be tempted to jump in. But yeah, the fencing has been fixed all the way around now. The hardware cloth did not work really well with the fencing, but I did find it's this plastic mesh stuff, not that expensive, and it looks pretty sturdy and it's flexible, so I was able to put it around. And then I used chicken wire up there because I had some chicken wire, so I used what I had all up, so it's kind of cobbled together. I don't really care as long as it keeps the rabbits out. I hope that's what it was. If it's birds, that's gonna suck because I'm gonna have to net the whole thing and I might as well just give up now. But anyway, I anticipated doing this week, but I did it today instead. Hopefully I can save my greens. You can see my greens growing in there. See how those are all lettuces and things. So that's what they're interested in. Anyhow, it's done. Yesterday, I spent the majority of the day hacking back the raspberry patch. I wasn't hacking the raspberries. I was hacking all the other things in the raspberry patch. And you can see my hands. Jen, why didn't you wear gloves? Well, it had rained so thoroughly that if you go into a bramble patch ever and it has rained anytime in the last couple days, everything's just going to drip on you. You're going to get completely wet, and that's what had happened. I knew I needed to do it yesterday because it was going to rain today. Obviously, it's raining today, which is why I'm on the porch. So I got a lot of it done. I still have about a quarter to a third left to do, and I will tackle that this week in pieces probably, just as I have time. But the critical piece, getting it away from the locust tree so that Dave can cut that down, that was the most important part, and saving the black raspberries that I found in there. So separating those out from the, multiflora rose and the blackberry and the wineberry. Wineberry can stay too, but in some cases it was too entwined, and black raspberry was too entwined to save them, but I made the best of it, and it looks good. I need to rake and, get all that stuff up, and we'll burn it, but for right now, at least it's down, and I just have to keep after it, but there's a lot more sunlight now, so. I've been putting this off. I was supposed to tackle this last fall, and I didn't get around to it, mostly because I don't want to, because everything in there is thorny, except for maybe the honeysuckle. So anyway, I haven't been looking forward to this, but today is the day. I really need to get in there and at least tackle part of it. And then I'll get Dave to cut down that tree, and I want to see how much sunlight I've got in there. It's possible that I may put something like a fig tree, or I don't know, something in there, but for right now I just need to clean it out. The basement, I pulled all the plants, and they spent the night outside, but I put their humidity domes on. So they were outside in the cooler temps, but with domes on. I'll leave them like that for a couple days, as long as it's overcast. If it's sunny, the domes have to come off, otherwise they'll cook. I will leave them outside. During the day, their domes will come off, and at night I'll put the domes back on. And we'll do that for a little while, and then once I feel like they've had enough hardening off, we will get them planted out. So right now in the basement, I have one tray of squash, and I think I also planted some basil. I'm pretty sure I planted basil with it. We can look at the video. All right, so you're in my basement, And this is my growing rack, and I have, so my lights are there. And I need to plant out my squash for the few bed spaces that I have. So I'm gonna focus on squashes, and I do have some cucumbers as well. There was one cucumber that did super well for me last year, and that's this one, this bush pickle. This is the only one I grew last year, and it is not a bush cucumber. I'm just gonna say that right now. It says it is, but it likes to grow. It says maintaining 24 to 30 inch diameter for containers. It's not. Mine climbed, and it climbed all over the peppers and everything. So I'm planning to give this guy some climbing space, but I definitely want to, the cucumbers were great. So I'm not poo-pooing it. It's awesome. I also have a couple of other things that I'm going to try. So in each container, because I'm going to do containers, I'm actually going to start a couple. Some of these seeds are now in their second year, so I don't know what my germination rate's going to be. And there are a couple things where I definitely want at least 2 plants, so it won't really matter. But anyway, so this is one of them, the bush pickle. It's not a bush, but I have some just standard black beauty, zucchini, of course, Waltham butternut. I have a honey nut as well. Spaghetti squash, and I'm definitely going to grow a couple of those because they don't really produce as many fruits per plant. So I definitely want to make sure I'm planting multiple of those. And then I also have this Costata Romanesco zucchini that I'm excited about. Pumpkins. So I didn't think I was going to have space, but now I have openings in my garlic bed. You might remember me saying, hey, some of these garlics didn't work out very well. So I actually have 2 kind of big open places. So I'm going to grow my pumpkins and a couple other types of squash there. And then in the, what I'm calling the sidewalk garden, which is where I just planted those strawberries, I'm going to do some cukes along the fence line. I am going to throw in a summer squash in there, and I'm going to do some things like basils and that kind of thing. But today we're just going to start the cukes and the squash. So that's the plan. So let me get my pots and we will get to plant. All right, so I've also thrown in some basil. So I have in each cell, these are little pots, and the reason I'm doing it this way is because, oops, I'm bottom watering. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I'm going to put 2 in each one, especially with the seeds that are a little bit older. I definitely want to make sure that I'm going to get good germination. And that's just a trick that you can use. If I end up with 2, I'll try to find a place for both of them. But I just want to make sure that I definitely have enough to fill in my beds. Now I know I'm missing, you know, I'm critical on space, so I've got to be careful about growing too many of these because they take over. If you've never grown squash and cukes before, they can take over your beds if you're not careful. So you really only need, you know, a couple. But I do have some openings that I didn't expect to have, so I'm really excited to put, you know, those in. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. So I only have 1 cell for these black beauties. It's pretty moistened. It's fine. So you just stick them in the soil. They're fine. I mean, this soil is already moist. It's my compost mix that I have. It's mixed in with vermiculite. Then for the spaghetti squash, these are older seeds, so I'm definitely putting in 2 per cell, and I've got 2 containers because spaghetti squash doesn't produce as many per plant. So anyway, and then you just push them down in, you know, into the soil pretty far, since they are pretty big seeds. So I think I only have 1 butternut. These are last year's. There we go. So I only have so many spaces in the garden for squashes, and they're so big and they're prolific, so you don't need that many. So here's a tip for you. If you're going to be growing summer squashes, probably just a couple plants is going to do you, and you'll have a lot of extra, unless you like to can it and make jams and that kind of thing with it. You know, awesome, grow more, but generally 1 or 2 plants is going to do you. For the winter squashes, those don't grow as prolifically per plant. So like for spaghetti squash, you might get 4 or 5 per plant. For butternuts, you might get a couple more. But just know that the number of fruits you're going to get for a winter squash or a pumpkin is going to be fewer per plant than if you have a summer squash. Yeah. It's been a really busy week, and you know, I feel like I've caught up with garden chores for the most part. There's just a few things that need to be done, and then I can start working on building the next terrace garden. So of course I'll take you along for that. And hey, if these videos, if you like this kind of roundup format, let me know, or if you'd rather have a specific topic, let me know. I can do that too. I used to do just specific topics, like, you know, my raspberries or whatever. If the roundup thing is working or not working, I'd like to hear your feedback. Can send me a message or put a comment below, or jump on my Instagram. I'm Dirt Hippie at Instagram too, and Facebook as well. So send me a message there. Anyway, I hope you guys are having an awesome weekend, and I hope you have a great week ahead of you. And yeah, get outside into the garden, get into nature, go hiking, whatever you like to do. So with that, I'll catch you outside.